First of all, I better acknowledge a few people. Dr. Ken Stalder, who is in the Iowa Pork Industry Center, which I was the interim director of for about 2 years, and worked with Ken quite a bit. He and I have a common mentor. It's his graduate student that's doing most of the legwork. Amber Danielson. Jim Dixon is a microbiologist there in the animal science department. His lab is doing all the is this thing working? It's doing all the biological evaluations of what we're doing in the truck washes. Ann Johnson is on Amber's committee along with me, and we owe our funding to Troy Bigelow, who came to me and said, "Hey, Butch, I understand you're working on truck washes. We have a few dollars and we'll help you guys out." And so they have helped us out quite a bit in this study, and it's an important partner in it. They also gave a little money to our state veterinarian to evaluate truck washes in the state of Iowa, and we piggybacked with them, have really worked with them, and Amber has gone out and visited a lot of these truck washes with Tim Smith, who's a veterinarian, works for Dave Smith at the state veterinarian's office in Des Moines, Iowa. So as Harry said, this is really, we've always known that trucks have been a big culprit in spreading various diseases around the country. And as our industry has become more modern in the last 25 years, we move a lot of pigs to where the feed sources are. So we have, in the state of Iowa alone, we have about 25 million pigs that come to the state every year from somewhere else. Some come from Canada. Many of them come from the southeast and neighboring states because of the inexpensive corn. This is what PED looks like in wean pigs, and this is what it looks like in nursing pigs. We think about 60% of our swine herd in the United States, numbers, were probably infected with the new PED virus, which began a couple of years ago. So this virus has spread very quickly, and it's spread long distance, and we know that transport is probably the primary way this virus was spread around the country. Our assumption is that transport of pigs is the most significant way diseases are transmitted from infected to naive herds, and there's a lot of stuff about aerosol spread of diseases, but I can tell you from my perspective and my experience, that's like a drop in the bucket compared to our pig movement issues. So transport's extremely important. Jim Lowe ran that study looking at slaughter trucks at the packing house a couple of years ago in the midst of this PED break, and we found that somewhere around 18% of trucks were infected with the virus when they arrived, and nearly 30% were contaminated with the virus when they left the packing house. So we know transport is a made way. So our study focus, to begin with, we had intended to identify all the commercial truck washes in the state of Iowa. After we worked with Troy a bit, we expanded that to what we thought were the main pig states in the United States. Interestingly, the Canadians found out about this work, and we spent a good bit of time collaborating with them because by their law, all trucks coming back from the USA must be washed and disinfected somewhere before they come back across the Canadian border, and they haven't really enforced that, but they're fixing to enforce it. And so they wanted to know where the good truck washes were that they could utilize on the way back. So we shared our list. Our state veterinarian also participated in that. And I recently got an email that they have finished their report, and they will send us a copy of that report as soon as it's been looked at by officials, and they can make it public. So those are the states, if you look, these are the states that we're trying to identify all the truck washes. We've already done Iowa. We're working on Illinois, Indiana, and I talked to the Ohio State veterinarian a minute ago. He's going to participate as well. And what we're trying to do is to determine the services offered in those facilities. And what I mean by services are typically, do they have a place to sweep all the gross matter off the truck? Do they have flush facilities? Is it recycled? Is it fresh? All we can learn about that. Are they using a disinfectant? Are they using hot water? All those things. And do they have a bio dry or a trailer baker associated with the truck wash where they can heat and dry the trucks afterwards? And then we're using a bioassay, which basically is looking for E. coli. And so we look at these trucks. We use I'll show you some photographs here in a second. But we're doing a little drag swab that we run through the trailers the same way every time. And then we're using a little template where we do the floor mats in the truck. And so we get an exact area, and then we can do colony counts, and we are comparing. And I can tell you there is a huge difference between those washes that just use, do everything right except for the heating process. The heating process really works. You're looking at 4 or 5 log reductions in bacterial counts just by heating. And I'm talking about swabs that are absolutely saturated with disinfectant. You can still grow a lot of bacteria out of those swabs when they get back to the lab. So that's and then the last thing is we're going to develop a website where producers and farmers can go on, can look at how we evaluated each service, and so it's a place they can go and decide that here's what services are available and here's what services I want. And we're not going to pick or choose good truck washes over bad ones or anything like that. We're just going to present here's what's available and here's what we think that those services can do for you. So if you haven't been to a truck wash and understand what goes on in a truck wash situation, you've really missed out in life. But here's what they look like when they come in. Now this photograph was taken in the winter. I mean, you can see that truck is pretty contaminated. Inside the wash, you can see the road film and scum. This is what they look like on the inside before they're swept out and flushed. And you can see all the angles and all the pinning and every trailer. A lot of these trailers are different. The pots are the toughest to clean, but there's a lot of hiding places there for bacteria, viruses, and whatever. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the floorboard of a truck. I think I have another picture here later on. And then here's what they look like when they're done. But I can tell you that when you do your drag swabs and you look at this trailer is still heavily contaminated with bacteria. And we assume that viruses are probably still there too. It's just that the bacteria was a much easier bioassessment tool for us to use compared to looking for PED virus or TGE virus or PRRS virus, etc. And if you look close, this is a truck that's been cleaned, but look what's on the floor. And so the people who are washing this truck are either going to get in that cab and pull it out, or the driver's going to come back in here, walk through this, get in his cab, and pull this truck away. So the truck looks pretty clean when it gets to the load out or the load in, but it's still heavily contaminated both in the cab and without. This photograph is just showing all the water, the aerosol that goes on in these washes. And so if it's windy, this aerosol is everywhere around the truck wash and also creates some significant opportunities for recontamination. Again, you can see here are 2 trucks in a large truck wash. The wash is probably near completion, and they're washing this truck. You can see they're side by side. Movement around these recontamination is a pretty simple process. I was in a meeting years ago. It was a food safety meeting, and they put some kind of tracking powder out there on where the food was, And when we all got in, after a little while of the presentation, they turned on the UV light, and that tracking powder was everywhere. It was on our faces, it was on our clothes, it was on the tables. And the idea was, see, you know, if that had been salmonella, you would have tracked it everywhere. I can tell you, if you put, you know, it would be a sight to see if we ever had the opportunity to do that in a truck wash. But again, here's two side by side being washed, two different companies, two different, these trucks going to two different producers, side by side, in a truck wash. And then here, this is the sawdust bedding that's going to go back in those trucks before they go pick up the pigs, small pigs. You know, by law, we have to bed these trucks. And so, you know, I mean, the picture's worth 1,000 words, right? But, and then here's a good one. Disinfectant. Try our new disinfectant applicator. Well, this is a place where the truck drivers wash the truck. And so they're advertising because they charge a little more for the disinfectant. So try our applicator and our disinfectant. And so this tells me that there's a whole lot of trucks coming out of this truck wash that aren't even disinfected, right? So this is the kind of things you run into. And then this is a slurry truck pumping the water from the storage lagoon where all the water is going after the wash. And that's right within 100 yards of the truck wash itself where they're spreading this on the, if you look carefully, you can see it coming out. And so there's also the potential for tracking back into the truck wash from the area surrounding the wash. This is that little template I was telling you about where we measure an exact, have a little swab that fits right in that template. And so each time we do this, it's identical. And so we can actually take those numbers and analyze them. But you can see this is a truck that's already been washed, disinfectant, is ready to go back on the road. And this is the floorboard of that truck. And so you can easily see that drivers can track a lot of bacteria or viruses around, especially if they get out of that truck and assist in the loading process or the unloading process. So here's our drag swab. You can see it. And we just drag it the length of the truck 3 times down each side and in the middle. If it's a 2-decker, we do the top and the bottom this way. So each truck is done the same way every time. This is actually a chair in the lounge where the drivers sit while the truck's being washed. It's again, opportunity for pathogens. And this is Harry, I made this up, but this is, from my experience, the ideal truck wash. I don't have a pointer, but a place to brush it out. This is the dirty side, barrier between them. Flush, hot water and wash, different buildings, trailer baker. And the key here is this is where the drivers sit, and the drivers ideally would shower and put on new clothes and then enter on the clean side and retrieve their truck. And I don't think anyone ever thought of this when they designed these truck washes. There's not one in the country designed like this that I know of, but I do believe this is the ideal way. So, and this is the old AP Bio Dry. There's been quite a few of these built around the country, and they actually work really good unless people decide to run them at 135 degrees. And we validated looking at PRRS primarily, but also PED virus. The K-State guys did a little work with the PED virus in these, but at 135, PRRS and PED survives really well. If you get it up to about 160 degrees for 10 minutes, it destroys most pathogens that we know of. It will not get FMD virus, which might be important to us down the road.